Just checking that we are live here, Brad. Beautiful. And we are live on our social channels. Welcome back, everybody, to another awesome episode of Midday Mindfulness. My name is Maria Barcelos. I'm the Executive Director of the Gatehouse, and this is my wonderful colleague, Brad Hutchinson. Check out his website, stepintothe.com. He has tons of wonderful information on there about all the processes that we're going to be talking about today on Midday Mindfulness. Last week, we talked about what is mindfulness and how it can be helpful to you in helping work through some of these lower level emotions of anger, shame, guilt. And we're going to be talking about those emotions again today and other processes to help us process and move forward from those kinds of experiences so we're not harming ourselves, we're not feeling low all the time, and we live a better, healthier life. I'm going to turn it over to Brad, who's going to be talking to us about so many cool things today. The topic for today is giving and receiving, and he's going to share a little bit more about that. He's going to lead us through a wonderful story. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you, Maria. First of all, one of the greatest things you can do to elevate your states of feeling is express gratitude. So I would like to start by thanking Maria and the Gatehouse for facilitating this, and also Maria, Paul, and Stephanie for keeping the Gatehouse going through this very difficult time. The Gatehouse, we know, is a lifeline for many people, and you guys are doing such a great job and making things happen. So thank you. Thank you to all the first responders that are doing such amazing work. So my gratitude, my heart to all of you. The first thing I would like to invite you to do in this session is to tighten your fist and put a lot of tension in it. When you do that, remember to curl your fingers in and your thumb is on the outside. And we're going to keep it there for a few minutes, full of tension. So just rest it on your leg or on somewhere. Be mindful of keeping tension in your fist. And we're going to explore why we're doing that as we move forward. If you remember from last time, we talked about the two monks and the senior monk being stung by the scorpion. That continued to save the scorpion because it was his nature to do that. There's a story, a real story that comes from 20 years ago in my Kung Fu training. I was very early in my instructor training. I'd been training Kung Fu for a few years and joined the instructors program. And I had the incredible privilege and opportunity to be standing with my teacher to award yellow sashes to students that I had a part in bringing to that level. And there was one kid there. He was 7 years old, 7 or 8, 6 or 7, and he was small for his age. He wore these huge, big, thick glasses held onto his head by these tubes that doctors hold their stethoscopes to. So that if he lost them, I'm sure he couldn't see past his hand. His grandfather was telling us a story about what happened one day to this child. And this is a story that has guided so many lessons that I have taught since. I'm reminded of them every time I descend into lower level emotions. And it's one of those things where the student becomes a teacher and the teacher becomes a student. And this is a story. He was at school one day and he came home and his grandfather looked at him. His clothes were disheveled. His glasses were on crooked, not fitting properly. He asked him, "How was your day?" And the kid said, "Fantastic, great." And the grandfather looked at him because his answer didn't match what he looked like. And he said, "What about your clothes and your glasses? What happened to you?" And the kid said, "Oh, this. Some big kid at school, he's always pushing me around. They pushed me to the ground. let me get up. He kept pushing me back down. And, that's why my clothes are dirty and my glasses got all disheveled and out of sorts. And that was the end of the kid telling the story. And the grandfather said to him, didn't that bother you? And as if it occurred to this child for the first time, he said, actually, yeah, it did bother me. And his grandfather asked, well, what it bothered you? And the kid reflected and he said, that kid must have been having a really bad day to be treating me that way. Let that sink in for a moment.
Brad, can you kindly just repeat the last sentence? We just missed it a little bit on the audio.
Who was bullying this child? That kid must have been having a really bad day to be treating me like that. If you let that sink in for a moment, that is the same story of the scorpion and the monk. Because my nature is compassion, kindness. I could see past my own being bullied and into the experience of another person in a very stressful situation. So every time I start to end, I think, because of something in the external world, somebody says something, does something, I think about that child and think, what is happening in that other person's experience to be acting in that way? And if you remember the first session we had, to be projecting lower level emotions onto me. Of course, in Shaolin Kung Fu, if somebody is pushing us around, invading our physical space, we need to do something to uh, facilitate our boundary. We need to make sure that our boundary, and there's, we teach self-defense, self-protection, those kinds of things, the back-off drill to increase. This is not
I'm so sorry, Brad. The sound keeps popping in and out. Just wanted to double check the mic is okay. So you were talking about projecting like blame kind of thing, and it was so cool in the story that you shared. The little boy was expressing empathy for the other boy who was being the bully. So he was being mindful in that moment to think about maybe there's something going on for this kid for him to feel like he has to do this to me.
able to step out of his own experience to be empathetic to the experience of another person that was creating him, bullying him. How am I sounding? Is it okay?
And no, Brad, he keeps going in and out again. I'm not sure like what's
I'm
happening.
going to switch my mic.
Thank you everyone for your patience. We practice this and it's these kinds of things happen, and in the moment again it's all about being mindful and bearing with what's going on and checking in with how you're feeling. So it's an opportunity for us to also practice being patient with letting go of having control over sound issues. So we appreciate your patience and thank you for tuning in and watching us. Let's try how does it sound now, Brad? No, not completely. Almost mute. Loving these Zoom calls. Yeah, on TV they have a whole technical team behind them that can quickly push buttons and
My
do things.
technical team is on break.
That's amazing, Brad. It sounds. I can hear you.
Okay, so if I hold it here, can we hear me?
A little bit closer.
Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
What about now?
A little. It's a little bit lower, like a little bit muffled.
What about now?
I can hear you.
Okay, so I'm going to have to hold this hands up. I want you to keep your closed fist still closed. Tight. Good. Okay, so this is, as Maria said, this is an important place to be mindful. Uh, I remember coming into the world after my surgery in 2016, and in 2017 I started facilitating in front of people, and it was an experience to get the sound right, to be working with technology. So again, I appreciate this opportunity and for your patience as we work through some of the ways that I could be heard and understood. Okay, so we're going to move forward. So the idea of that story was that that child had was connected to his nature enough to see that there was something going wrong with the nature of another human being. I think when we are children, we're closer to our nature, and we splash through puddles, and our nature is guiding us. And then somewhere along the line, often through trauma, abuse, the world coming into our experience in negative ways, we close up. And the way to open up is through one word that seems to create a lot of emotional negative energy for many of the people that I've worked with. And that word is forgiveness. And forgiveness is often associated with releasing a person, people, from responsibility for the harm that it caused us. And I would like to try to transform that paradigm by offering maybe a new way to look at it. For me, forgiveness is not about the release of responsibility for somebody else, but the release of the creative or the source energy within us. As we said last week, when we are connected to our creative energy, and you can use whatever word you want, source, Tao, God, whatever makes sense to you, that when that energy flows through us, then we feel better.
Brad, I'm so sorry, but the sound seems to be cutting out again. Can you just please ensure that on the microphone icon on Zoom that you have that mic pack selected? And I heard, I'll just say a little bit about forgiveness and how we practice it at the Gatehouse and what we do in those processes in our groups while you're just adjusting the mic there. Maybe on the screen, Brad, if you could check the microphone icon to make sure that mic pack is selected. Click on the microphone arrow up button and it should pop up there.
It is on the USB.
Okay, so that should be it. Interesting. I'll say a little. Yeah, it's a little bit low still, Brad. I'll say a little bit about forgiveness while we're trying to figure out the audio. At the Gatehouse, in our groups, we do talk about forgiveness, and it's usually a very open-ended question that we ask the groups. We ask, what does forgiveness mean for you, to you? We don't prescribe what forgiveness is. And a lot of times people may think that forgiveness is about forgiving the offender or forgiving the person that's caused them harm and absolving them of the crime itself. And that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about looking at letting go of some of those lower level emotions like self-blame and guilt for owning the abuse, owning the trauma, owning the interaction wholly or solely by yourself. So know, at the gatehouse, we ask that question: what does forgiveness mean for you? And it usually, wherever the person is where they're at. We don't prescribe, you know, you should forgive, or you should do this, or you should do that. It's about where the person is at, and if they are looking at self forgiveness, if they're looking at forgiving the offender and moving on with their life, if they're looking at never forgiving anyone, no talking about, you know, forgiving family members or any of those kinds of things. So it really is up to where the person is at, from that place of capacity. Let's check in with Brad and see how he's doing there with
And
sound.
can you hear me?
It's a little bit low, Brad. Is there a little volume on that mic pack at all, or no? Again, thank you everyone for your patience. We love these.
What about now?
No, I don't. I'm not even sure if it's is it turned on, Brad, because sometimes that happens where those USB receivers have some issues like catching the sound. But it should come online. Maybe if you unplug it and plug it back in, that might work. That usually works with technology. If you restart the computer, it usually does something to it where it recharges the brain, just like mindfulness does for people, right? We want to use a process that's non-judgmental to recharge our mind and body and spirit and energy to be healthier, whole human beings. Let's check in with Brad.
Okay, what about now?
It's a little bit better.
Yeah, I don't know. It was working really well before. How
Can you
about
tap
this?
the mic, Brad? You know how we tap the mic when we're at an event? We'll tap the mic to hear if it. Yeah, it is on. Okay, perfect.
All right. How are we doing?
Let's go with it. Let's see if it goes.
Is it sounding? Can you hear?
It sounds better. Yes.
Okay, so I got to be very close to it. Um, it everything seems to be on. Okay, so let's move forward in this idea of forgiveness. Okay, so you're nodding, so you can hear me. Okay, awesome. Thanks for your patience. Whenever we're gonna give you some really powerful tools to be present and mindful today. So I just want to give you some ways to um, conceptualize what we're doing. Great. Thank Maria. Your fist is closed. If you've opened your fist,
I opened it. It was getting really stiff, Brad.
it, it's
It
it's
was.
okay. It's getting stiff. So we're going to open those now. So what I would invite you to do now is just to relax the tension in your hand. And the idea of this exercise is that it feels better when you relax the tension. When you open it up slowly, that the there's a bit of pain. You close your fist for a long time and you open it, you might hear some cracking and there's a bit of pain. And there's also a tendency that if you stop the intention to keep opening, there's a tendency, because it's been closed down for so long, to recoil again. This is at the heart of what it means to practice, to do something every day, or at least every 2 days, where you take a few minutes and you just enter into a state of mindfulness. And in that state of mindfulness is where you can start to feel the energy of forgiveness. Good, you're nodding, you can hear me. Awesome. I'd like to give you one of the best statements about forgiveness that I've heard. And it comes from a book called A Course in Miracles. And it simply says, forgiveness is still and quietly does nothing. It merely looks, waits, and judges not. So I'd like to break that down just a little bit in terms of what the work of the gatehouse. Forgiveness is still. That means that you're in a place, you're finding a space between your emotions that might be ready to find something to lash out at, or your thoughts, a stillness between thoughts, and quietly does nothing. At the gatehouse, we say we do nothing, we do nothing well. We are inviting the universal energy, creative energy, source energy to do some of the work for us. Marianne Williamson says that the universe is self organizing and self correcting. But if we're always moving, we're not letting it do its work through us. The Tao and the Tao Te Ching says the Tao does nothing but leaves nothing undone. So when we're still, we're inviting the creative energy, source energy, to work through us. And when we do that, it brings healing energy and it helps us to put things into perspective. That's what mindfulness is all about, is being present. The second line of that statement, it merely looks, waits, and judges not. That sums up what we do at the gatehouse. We stand in people's pain and we let it reflect off. We let them organize their thoughts in a verbally in a safe space where they're not judged, where anybody that's ever had difficulties in taboo subjects like suicide, childhood sexual abuse, that has ever tried to voice their emotional discord and was shot down in a space that was judgmental, that didn't have patience and look and wait, because those emotions are very difficult to articulate. It always takes many times of saying something before you can find a word that anchors it to the emotions and says, yes, that's how I feel. So when it comes out, it often sounds um, not right. And if somebody jumps on that emotion and says, well, yeah, you should, or you're just looking for attention, or whatever it is, that emotion didn't actually find the anchor to articulate it in a way that could release it. So we need to be still in that energy. We need to be patient. We have to look at it. See, here's the thing with looking at those emotions is that we tend to try to stay ahead of them. So if we have trauma in childhood, we try to move through our life and stay ahead of that energy and forget about it, bury it, and say, well, that's not how I want my life to be. I want it to be different. And you go on chasing your dreams, your goals. And then at the gatehouse, we find our typical demographic is between 35 and 60, mostly between 40 and 50. Would that be right, Miriam?
Yeah, late 30s, early 40s. Yeah.
Because at that point in your life, whether you've achieved success, that your dreams, or whether you feel stuck in life, you realize that this is not going away unless I find a way to voice it. That's why places like the gatehouse are so important. So let me say that statement again. And everybody that's been through the gatehouse and has found their voice after years of being silent understands the relief in finding a space where people can, they don't even have to understand, they're just not judging. Because nobody
Exactly.
can understand exactly what your trauma is. But when you find a place that you can voice it and get, oh, okay, thank you for sharing something that's not judgmental, it's so powerful. So forgiveness, it is still and quietly does nothing because we're letting the universal energy that brought us into the world do it. The embryo doesn't go, I can't wait till my nose shows up. It lets a process happen. The acorn doesn't say, I can't wait to be in an oak tree.
Exactly.
There's a process that happens that we're all part of. That is our life. And there is a dream, uh, a happiness, a joyfulness that is in our lives when we're on our path. It's not a destination we're looking for. We're looking for the path. It's all we need to find. There's no end. It's just a path. And childhood abuse can knock us off that path. And voicing yourself can find our way back. You want to jump in with anything here before I
Yeah, I was
wrap
thinking
up?
as you were speaking, thank you, Brad, about the non-judgment. You know, it's interesting that you mentioned the example of someone saying to you, "Oh, you're overreacting," or "Are you?" And then a lot of times we hear that in groups that people have been told that when they're sharing their story with others who are not worthy of hearing their story. So even for yourself, when a friend is going to talk or share their story with you and you want to jump in and talk, it's mindfulness helps you take a step back, a mental step back. So think about what you're going to say, what you're thinking about saying. Is it judgmental? Because if it is, it's probably not going to be helpful to the other person. So if you are putting some sort of label on something, that in itself would be judgmental. So saying something like, "Oh, why don't you just get over it?" or "That happened so many years ago." I understand that psychologically, what that person's trying to do is work through their own discomfort and hearing someone else's trauma. But at the same time, those statements are not helpful to survivors. So just paying attention to what you're thinking about saying, and count to 5 in your head if you have to, or 10 or 20, depending on how quickly you think about what you're going to say. And ask yourself, am I judging this person right now? And is what I'm going to say going to be helpful? Because if the first answer is yes, I'm judging, then the likelihood is it's not going to be helpful. So it's better to say nothing. And that's what doing nothing and doing it really well is all about. Like paying attention to what we're and how we are for people, how we sit with someone who's in trauma or who's talking about their past, not quickly going, "Well, I have a solution for you. Why don't you just do this?" Right? Because that's not helpful for anyone. All people want to do is be heard. A lot of times people just want to be heard, and they're looking for someone in their life that they trust to hear their story without putting a label on it. So thank you for bringing that up, Brad. And exactly the other thought that I had was an example. Yesterday we went for our 5K walk in support of the gatehouse, and Stephanie was sharing something with me and I was sharing something with her, and she said something in a one sentence. She said, I was like, that's exactly what I was looking for to describe what I was thinking about this situation that we were talking about. And I was like, thank you for doing that, because it's been going around in my mind and I'm looking for a way to describe it. And she just said that one perfect sentence, perfect for me, listening in and being receptive to the message she was giving me, and then acknowledging her contribution to our interaction was really, really cool. So yeah, Brad, people are looking to share their story in safety, in community, and that's exactly what happens at the Gatehouse. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Maria. And that's the power of the difference between waiting or listening and waiting to speak, is what we say. And also the group process rate, going exactly to what you said. Somebody else's story can help you find the language to define your own story. And that's exactly what happens in the group process. That's what happens when you give somebody space to speak. And that's what my other work in restorative justice, that somebody is holding something, a feather, a speaking stone, speaking stick. That means that person has the floor. Nobody else can speak. And when that person is done speaking, they can pass it to somebody else. So many people today are speaking over each other and they're not listening. And that goes to another longing of our creative energy is to be acknowledged for pain, but also our dreams, our sadness, but also our joy. And that goes right to that. So we're gonna move along here. I want to do an exercise now, a breathing exercise that I would invite you to incorporate into the Bodwitching movements as we do them. And this breathing exercise, it's a mindfulness breathing exercise. And what we do is we breathe in deeply. So as we take a breathe in deeply, go ahead and do that now. And we exhale slowly, a little bit slower on the exhale than the inhale. And as we're doing that, we're imagining when we're breathing in, we're imagining a white healing mist entering our lungs, expanding our stomachs, entering our bodies. And as we exhale, we're imagining a dark black cloud, maybe dark gray for sure, exiting our body. And that dark cloud represents any stress, anxiety, any tension we might be holding. And as we breathe in the clean, healing white mist, expanding our lungs, expanding our diaphragm, exhaling that gray, dark mist. Good. Keep doing that. And as we're doing that, we're seeing that dark mist start to lighten on the exhale, breathing in the clean, healing white mist, exhaling. And on every exhale, the darkness fades until it turns into the white mist. So we're breathing in love, universal energy that's ever present. And we're exhaling tension, stress, until the inhale and the exhale, we're imagining as the same mist. So when we speak about giving and receiving, we're receiving love and we're extending love. But the energy of the darkness, the tension, we're not placing on anybody. We're letting the universe, source energy, the creative, take it. It can handle it. At the gatehouse, we say the house can hold it. We're not putting, people are putting stories onto other people to hold. They're releasing it into an environment that can fully handle it and knows what to do with it. So that's what we're going to imagine as we move into our moving meditation, mindfulness, called Padwajin. Are we ready to go?
We're good to go, Brad.
Okay, good. That tells me that you can at least hear me.
Yes. And that was so cool, Brad. Thanks for giving us that gift of the white mist meditation. There will be more meditations on the Gatehouse YouTube channel. And Brad writes a lot about mindfulness and meditation on his blog. So check out his website, stepintothecreative.com. And our YouTube channel is Gatehouse The. You'll find us, if you search on YouTube, the Gatehouse Toronto, you'll find us quickly there on our channels. There's at least 3 meditation files. We're going to be adding another one called Lake Meditation to that channel soon. Thank you. It's a little bit low, Brad. Would you be able to turn the mic or clip it to your shirt?
I'm going to try the headset again.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Again, you can find those meditations on our pages and also on our website, thegatehouse.org. There are some really fantastic articles written by survivors for survivors talking about their healing journey, sharing their story. So if you're watching this and you haven't been to the Gatehouse, you're just finding out about who we are and what we do, or about Brad's step into the creative work, check out our website, thegatehouse.org. There are really great articles on there on anxiety, on healing with the inner child, and we post those every month from survivors for survivors, so it might be something to check out later on. And if you want to subscribe to our newsletter, just go to our website, and there should be a subscribe button on there shortly. Thank you. All right, Brad, let's test out the
Okay.
sound.
Oh, it says something.
It's good.
Okay, good. If anybody knows of any technology that may be able to help me with this, I would like to continue to do this. This is a new frontier for me. I would be fully receptive to any feedback on that kind of thing. So I'm going to show you the next two movements. The first one, call it the hawk, but we're not going to call it that. Sometimes when I'm in a room of vegetarians or vegans, I call it shoot the tofu. But because when we're um, talking about giving and receiving love, I'm going to call it the cube. So we're going to be bending down a little bit lower. And this is what's called a horse stance. Now, you don't have to go too low. I'm not going very low right now for this demonstration, but it's in the I Ching and alignment with keeping still. The image is a mountain. The mountain is still. It weathers all kinds of storms. It stays still. And it invites us to be still in emotion and thought when adversity meets us. So this is the Cupid, shoot the tofu, whatever you want to call it. And we just tighten our fists in this. We place our finger out. Before we do that, we turn our head. Imagine if you're shooting a bow and arrow, you want to look at your target. You're looking at your target. This is what we're imagining. Say 100 or 1,000 meters down, further away. You want to have distance. And then we pull back. And, okay, I'll go. And when our sight aligns, our vision aligns with our finger, with the distance, now we change our sight to focus on our finger as we bring it back. So it looks like this. And of course, what we do with one side, we do with the other side. The next movement is we bring both, we close our fists like we did at the beginning. It to our hands. We send towards our fist is tight. Turn, release, grab. We do that with the other side, and then with both sides. I'm gonna invite you to come up. We're gonna go through the first two movements that we did last week, and we're gonna move into those movements. And I would like you just to follow along as best you can. If you can create that stillness and quiet space within you, that's really, really good. Because your nature will then start to send up language that will guide you back to your sacred path. That's what we call it. If your mind is, if you need something to hold on to, then you want to send something out. You can use use words like peace, harmony, laughter, love, whatever you want more. Send it out and bring it back. See the love within us. It flows both ways, Richard Rohr. In the dance says love flows both ways. Not at all. The miracle says to give and receive are one and true. Mr. Hicks asks, where do we get off?
Sorry, Brad, can you repeat that last sentence?
Where do we get off? Where are we closing in around that energy that wants to rise, expand through us, and serve, contribute to the world? We'll be holding it, and we'll find in those lower level emotions, they're in those things that make us close our hearts. So we're just gonna follow. Good. Can you hear me? Okay, Maria.
Yep.
So now I'm just inviting you to find a place where your arms are open and just follow. Of course, we start with the bow. Spine is straight, vision wide, breathing deeply, white mist, and so now we're just gonna sit for a moment and process anything that might be happening. Okay, awesome. Awesome. Maria, would you like to comment on anything that you're sensing or experiencing?
For sure. Thank you, Brad. Last episode, I was shared a little bit about how sometimes I go quickly through these movements. And this time I caught myself twice doing that. And I was like, okay, slow it down. You don't have to go that fast. The other thing, too, I sat through the movement so that you know that you don't have to do it standing. If you're able to stand, great. If you're able to only sit, then some of these movements can definitely be adapted. If you're not able to move your upper body or your arms, you can still do the white mist meditation and listen to Brad's voice, or there's voices online that do these kinds of meditative processes to be mindful in the moment as well. So Bodhidharma is something that definitely is adaptable for different capacities.
Awesome. So I guess we're getting close to closing. So I want to thank everyone that I wanted to bring in earlier that because of the sound was difficult. Um, it's looking for ways to bring mindfulness into daily activities. Find something that you do every day that you don't like doing, or that it's something, cleaning the house, doing the dishes, whatever it is, something that you do, but it provides little satisfaction because it just, they're dirty again next day. Laundry, there always seems to be that energy of dirty dishes in the house, or that you're always vacuuming, or whatever it is. And check yourself while you're doing those. And can that be an opportunity where you're being mindful? Because all work, it doesn't matter what kind of work it is of the creative or of source energy. When you're doing it mindfully, you're in the moment of that. Just what's happening with me at the beginning of this session was frustration, was surfacing, and memories of my surgery where I couldn't speak for long periods of time. It all started to surface, and we're doing a live thing here, and we're trying to get the sound going. There was a lot of frustration, and still is for me, in terms of contributing in the way that I had learned how to contribute, and now I have to do it differently. So I would like to express gratitude. You're still here watching, and you invite you to find things in your life where you stop doing them because you want to do it. You know that's where your gifts are. But it's difficult to work through the stages to make that right back to my initial Kung Fu training days when I didn't know what to say in front of a class or I got frustrated. And I worked through that, and now I'm working through this with you. Um, there's a funny saying I heard long ago, and I'll try to apply it to this. Hopefully, it'll be funny. And it is, I've suffered a lot through this creative energy, and now it's your turn. I'm just kidding. People say I suffered a lot through my music. Now it's your turn to listen to it. It's it's something. These are the things that stop us in life, and we need to get through those hurdles because if there's only one little bit of information in this hour, 45 minutes that you've been here, that could change your life. We need to listen to that small, quiet voice within. We need to learn to listen to something different than the things that are causing us stress and anxiety. So, thank you for being here. Maria, if you wanted to add on to that, or
For sure. Thank you so much, Brad. And yeah, despite our technical challenges, the theme is we can move on from them, right? Like we do have the capacity to move on beyond trauma, to move on beyond insecurity, to learn more about ourselves and how we are in the world, and how we can make our lives better using these processes of meditation, moving meditation, self-reflection. And next week, I'm super excited because we're going to be talking about exploring limiting beliefs, which is am I the only one that gets excited about this? I love this concept because it really helped me as well to explore what beliefs I had about myself that were stopping me from achieving some of the things that, or some of the goals that I had for myself in my life moving forward. So, and we're going to be talking about the other five longing or the other longings. We've talked about a couple, but we will talk about those longings of the soul, or the spirit, the creative energy that you talked about, Brad. If you are interested in learning more, do check out Brad's website at stepintothecreative.com. Check out thegatehouse.org. There are so many great articles on both of our sites talking about moving beyond trauma, more of these strategies. Brad actually has some videos on his website. Bodwin definitely is on there on the Gatehouse YouTube channel as well. We will be back here Tuesday, November 3rd. So the next week, Tuesday at 12 Eastern. And feel free to share this video because you just never know who's on your friend list, who's watching this, or may need to watch some of this in their own healing journey to help them find their voice. So thank you everyone for spending time with us. And Brad, your voice sounds amazing. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks, my just to finish this off. Um, my son Isaac, he was watching one of the videos I did, like when I had a voice box, and he said, "Is that your voice?" And he said it in a way that, like, thank goodness you don't sound like that anymore. It's just a funny perception that we have of ourselves, where I see it as a limitation. Somebody else might see it as an opportunity. If you are having any challenges in your life where you feel like you're not succeeding, you keep trying and you're putting out such energy and it keeps coming back in seemingly negative ways, just remember that anything worthwhile doing is worthwhile doing poorly first. It's nobody gets to be an Olympic star or a renowned public figure speaker without going through some trenches. Don't stop yourself because you don't think things are working. Surround yourself with people that say you can do this. You're doing great. Just like that comment from you, Maria, that made me feel good. Your voice sounds good. Because those are some of the things that I'm working through. Thank you for being here. We look forward to seeing you Tuesday. And have the best day of your life.
Thank you.